When the Barbie movie exploded onto our screens in 2023, it presented us with an idea of what dolls represent and how they are used in society. While Barbie may be over 60 years old, dolls have been made and played with since before recorded history and may even be the oldest type of toy in existence. Dolls have been found in various forms worldwide, and many doll-making methods are still practiced and considered important folk and heritage crafts today. With that in mind, join us as we count down the 5 oldest dolls in history. Number 5. Roman dolls. Over 500 dolls have been excavated from Roman sites, and many of them closely resemble dolls as we know them today. Most of the surviving dolls are fully articulated, meaning they could be played with in many ways, and were made with the most fashionable hairstyles of the day. They were made from bone, wood, or ivory, with older and simpler dolls made from cloth and rags. They had small breasts and wide hips, as this was the most idealized body type at the time. The dolls were equipped with jewelry, rings, and occasionally removable clothing. They also may have been intended as role models for young upper-class Roman girls, much like Barbie is today. One doll found in the tomb of a young girl had the hairstyle of Faustina the Younger, wife of Marcus Aurelius, who was known for her charity towards Rome's lower-class girls. Many Roman dolls from the start of the current era still survive, but a great deal of them have lost their articulated limbs. One of the best examples of a Roman doll comes from the tomb of a young Roman woman called Creparea Tryphena. Creparea is thought to have been around 20 years old when she died in the 2nd or 3rd century CE. She wore a ring that bore the name Philatus, leading many to suspect she was engaged and due to be wed. Most Roman girls were married by the time they were 15, so Creparea was actually pretty old to be a bride. When a Roman girl married, it was a tradition that she would offer her childhood toys to Venus, goddess of love, beauty, fertility, and victory. So the doll's presence in Creparea's tomb suggests she was not yet married despite her age. However, some historians believe she was much younger than the generally accepted estimate. The doll is around 23 centimeters tall, made of ivory, wears a tiny golden ring, and was found with accessories, including a small chest, 2 ivory combs, and a mirror. It is likely that the doll also had clothes, which may have matched her owners. Historians believe this type of doll was not common, but was a toy reserved for upper-class Roman children. Lower-class children may have played with cloth dolls. There are no surviving examples of dolls that lower-class children might have played with. Still, given how prolific dolls were with upper classes, it is not a huge stretch of the imagination to think that they played with cruder versions of the upper-class dolls. Number 4. Greek dolls. Ancient Greek girls also had articulated dolls made of wood and ivory, but they evolved from a traditional clay Grecian doll called a plagona doll. Traditionally, these dolls were associated with religious figures and were found in shrines, but they became toys after a time. The dolls had intricate hairstyles, and their arms and legs were attached with thread to enable them to be moved about. There is evidence that these dolls were mass-produced using molds so that they could be thought of as the world's first Barbie. Sometimes the clothes were painted on, but other dolls had fabric clothes that the owner could change. Historians believe the dolls may have helped young girls understand how to dress and even make fabric and clothes. These dolls also had accessories like coffee tables, cots, and other household items. As children learn through play, it is highly likely that these dolls helped girls prepare for their adult lives, taking care of their homes and children. And much like today, the girls may have emulated their mothers and other adult women in their games. On the eve of their wedding, Grecian girls would offer their dolls to Artemis, the goddess of childbirth, care of children, the hunt, and wild animals. Many of these terracotta dolls are still intact today, and one that is on display in the Met Museum in New York dates from the 5th century BCE. Number 3. Corn-husk dolls. As corn was a staple of Native American life, the entirety of the plant was used for various purposes, including making playthings for children. There is a legend that the first corn-husk doll was made for the children of the Iroquois nation by the corn spirit. The doll was extremely beautiful and best of friends with the other children, until it glimpsed its reflection. Upon seeing her own beauty, the doll began treating the human children poorly, believing them less special than herself. The corn spirit told the doll to change its ways and not be so egotistical. But the doll continued to be self-absorbed and pompous. As punishment, the corn spirit took away the doll's beauty, and from that day on, corn-husk dolls were made without a face to remind the children that no one is better than anyone else. Perhaps Mattel could take a lesson from the corn spirit. Due to the perishable nature of the materials, we don't have any existing examples of the dolls, but the practice may date back to prehistoric times. We know of their existence due to the legend and the method of making them, passed down orally through the generations. The dolls were made by soaking dried corn husks to make them more malleable, then lying several husks on top of each other and tying them together at the thin end. The husks are then flipped over and peeled down to make the head. A couple of other husks are rolled up and tied in the middle, then inserted between the husk layers to form the arms. Finally, the husks are secured beneath the arms to create the body. The doll can then be tidied up, and the bottom half can either be left with a skirt or cut and tied to form legs. There is a similar practice that was common across Europe and dates back to pagan times, and that is the corn dolly. There is some evidence that corn dollies originated in ancient Egypt, but these creations were not child's playthings. They were made to honor the spirit of the corn, although in this case, corn refers to oats or wheat rather than maize. The corn dolly would be kept in the home to ensure the seeds would germinate the following year, and in some areas would be given as love tokens during harvests. Most dolls originated as religious idols, and the word doll comes from the Greek word eidolon, meaning idol. Number 2. Wooden paddle dolls. These wooden dolls have been found in Egyptian tombs dating from around 2030 to 1802 BCE. Whether these dolls were created as children's toys or strictly for ritual use is unknown. Still, as evidenced by other historical dolls, it is conceivable that they were used for religious purposes as well as entertainment for children. The dolls are roughly shaped like a paddle, hence the name, and were often painted with jewelry and patterned clothes that some have identified as possible tattoos. They didn't have formed legs, but had rudimentary arms and long hair made from linen thread strung with beads. The beaded hair makes some historians believe that the dolls were used as a percussion instrument during religious ceremonies, as the keyhole shape of the dolls is similar to the amulet on a Manat necklace. On the necklace, the amulet hung at the back as a counterweight for the beads at the front, which were shaken to appease a god or goddess, and the dolls may have been used in a similar way in ceremonies associated with the goddess Hathor. Ancient Egyptian children also played with dolls made of papyrus or grasses, probably made in a similar way to the corn-husk dolls of the Native Americans. The children of wealthier families had dolls made of linen and stuffed with soft materials. These dolls had painted features and clothes that the child could use to dress the doll. It is conceivable that young girls made the doll's clothes as practice for making fabric and full-scale clothing. Number 1. Dogu. These figures came from the Jomon period, between 10,500 and 300 BCE. The oldest of these Neolithic figurines are made from stone or clay and mainly depict female figures. However, the designs became more abstract over time and feature exaggerated proportions and odd body patterns that some believe to be a sign of tattooing, although they may depict patterned clothes. Some of the more abstract figurines have even inspired tales of ancient astronauts or aliens. Around 20,000 Dogu have been found in areas inhabited by the northern Jomon people, yet they vary dramatically in size and design. The figures are thought to be associated with ritual practices, although historians still debate over exactly why they were created. Many believe they are associated with fertility and childbirth, possibly as a protective amulet. Some Dogu have been found deliberately shattered in tombs, while intact examples have been found in habitations. Historians also struggle to explain the lack of masculine Dogu dolls, although some postulate that phallic stone rods from the same era, called Sekibo, are the male counterparts of the Dogu. Perhaps the Dogu were made as a totem for girls, while the Sekibo were made for boys, and both were kept until death when they were destroyed and buried with the owner. Whether these figures were ever intended to be used as a plaything is up for debate, but when have kids ever stuck to just using toys for their games? One of the oldest surviving works of art is the so-called Venus of Willendorf, a carving of a female figure dated around 24,000 to 20,000 BCE. It is 11 centimeters high and is considered a fertility figure or good luck totem. However, looking at this crude figure, it is not hard to imagine a child using it to play with and then getting a telling off from their parents for doing so. So, while ancient dolls may have been intended for ceremonial use, perhaps little hands found these figures all too tempting, and we all know how persistent kids can be when they want to play with something. Given the history of dolls, from idols to toys, it seems that far from being frivolous playthings, dolls have helped girls understand their place in the world for centuries. The fascination with dolls shows no sign of waning, and there is a vast array of dolls of all ages, shapes, and sizes available for modern children, as well as the growing popularity of collectible dolls for adults. The role of dolls in our society seems vastly more varied than in the past, but with contemporary gender roles not being as clearly defined as they have been, how dolls are presented is perhaps more important now than ever. How would you like to get a deeper understanding of history, impress your friends, and predict the future more accurately based on past events? If this sounds like something you might be into, then check out the brand new Captivating History Book Club by clicking the first link in the description. Check out our Captivating History book series to learn more about world history. It's available as ebooks, paperbacks, and audiobooks. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this.